Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Careers Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with another one of the owners of Cedar Creative, Preston Little. Preston is a very talented filmmaker, and it was really exciting to talk with him and learn his background and how he got involved with Cedar Creative. The filmmaking, the storytelling, the beauty that comes out of Cedar Creative is really incredible and really a standard in the Birmingham area. I was really appreciative of Preston's time that he gave me and just his genuine character and personality. I'm really enjoyed talking to him, and I'm excited to share this conversation with you now. Check it out. All right. Preston Little. This has been a long time coming, man. We've been trying to arrange a time to get together on this podcast for a while now. We jumped the gun a little bit with meeting in person to grab coffee. That was great, just to get to know you a little bit and meet you and get to know your personality, which is infectious and great. So I really appreciate you joining me today, and also appreciate you joining me the other day for coffee, man. It was great.
It was a joy. It was a joy. It was so much fun just to hang out and chat and get to know more about your story and where you've come from, and what's led to this podcast. I enjoy just meeting face to face and hanging out. So it was really good.
Well, that's actually how this podcast sort of started, is my love for the Birmingham creative community, my mad respect for the work that's sort of going on in the Birmingham community, in which you are definitely a part of that, as well as the team you work with, and then just to. I love having conversations with people anyway. I mean, I was meeting in coffee shops and not recording them, and I was like, I've got to have these, documented. And just because people are saying such great things and have such great stories, I felt like I really wanted to capture that. And so I appreciate you again meeting with me then, and definitely now just allowing me to capture a little bit of your story. So
Yeah, absolutely, man.
all right, well, let's go ahead and get started into the slides so I'm not too all over the place.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about who is Preston Little. Tell me just a little bit
Oh
about
man.
you. Where do you come from? What's your background, man? What's your origin story?
Um, Me, where do I come from? My background. So I grew up in Atlanta, well, Swanee, Georgia, but you know how we always say Atlanta, right?
Like we all say Birmingham, right?
Yep. um, and I had like started with photography back in high school, just taking like photos of cars with my phone. I love the automobile industry. I love exotic cars, the history behind them all. And it was about sophomore year that my parents and I went down on a trip to Florida because we are going to potentially move. And while we were down there, I was taking photos with my iPhone of all these cool cars. And I just started posting them on Instagram. It kind of gained some traction. I felt like this was a lot of fun. Maybe I can do this as a hobby. Bought a camera. And like for the first year of me learning photography, reaching out to, I was going to car meets, reaching out to the owners of these like exotic cars like Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati, and just asking if I could go photograph their car one day, either at their house or we would take it somewhere. And for a year, I just photographed all of these cars. But then I realized that I wanted to actually start to make some money. And so photographing
That's
cars,
usually
that you
nice.
can't do that. So I was spending my Saturdays trying to photograph these cars, but you can't really make any money doing that. So got into family portraits, and I just realized that the relational side of family portraits and just portrait photography in general was something I really enjoyed. I enjoyed talking to someone who didn't really have a lot of confidence in front of the camera, maybe for insecurities, and like being able to give them a chance to feel confident in who they are and to feel
Yeah.
confident in what they're doing, and to feel beautiful too. And that was a joy for me. Like the
Yeah.
photos were a plus, but like it's more like instilling that in someone else. That's a real powerful thing to do. And the camera is just in a way like a vessel in order to communicate that to somebody. So yeah, that's
It's
kind of
a
how things started. Yeah.
it's amazing the insecurities that we all have, that through the right lens, and I mean more figurative lens, through the right lens, through the right perspective, like we can, if we can sort of step into that, we can see the beauty of us all. I mean, um, my mother I've always talked about as being one of the most beautiful women I know, and it has very little to do with her physical beauty, and it has everything to do with her confidence, man. Like, she walks into a place and she's not covering herself, she's not hiding in a corner. Like, she is there and she's present, and that confidence that she walks into, I've always just been struck by,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
thankful for, because I feel like she instilled that same kind of confidence in me. It's not this arrogance by any means that my mother has. It's just
Mm-hmm.
this confidence to say, you know what, I'm just like everyone else. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be heard and seen, and so, but unfortunately, so many of us, and I've been this way at times, where we sort of shrink back because we don't feel beautiful or deserving of attention. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. That's cool that you had that perspective.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there because I think that as creators, we can often look at other people's work, and we talked about this at the coffee, but we can look at other people's work, and that can either lower our confidence or boost it, depending on, where you sit within all of that and what
Right.
you're looking at. And kind of boost it in potentially a fake way. But yeah, it could affect our confidence and then affect our ability to create because then we second guess what we're doing or we try to make it seem like someone else's work and not ours. But everyone has a very special gift in creating something the way that they see it because everyone's going to have a unique perspective on the world. It's really important to honor that perspective and to maybe gain some inspiration from others, and always have confidence in what we're able to bring out of ourselves and into this world. Put
Yeah.
that out there.
I was just talking with somebody. I'm actually trying to remember who it was that I was talking to the other day. Um, it may have been, it wasn't Aaron. Oh, it was this guy, Cody Perry. Do you know him? We ran into him at the coffee shop. He was meeting with Delane that day.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
yeah, he's like a realtor, but I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
talking with him about something really similar. This idea that, we sort of like put ourselves out there with this like comparison immediately, and we're sort of scared to hit record or hit upload because we're always afraid of like, that debilitating comparison issue that we all seem to feel at some point. That what's the phrase everybody uses? The imposter syndrome kind of idea. And
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
and and I think he and I both were talking about just the idea of finding your own voice.
Hmm.
Because so many times we do begin to imitate people that we admire, which can
Hmm.
be good in a lot of ways, but eventually you have to get the confidence to be yourself on camera. I did that. I mean, I started off trying to be a YouTuber,
Hmm.
and I tried to record myself on camera, and I modeled myself after Peter McKinnon, which I am in no way a Peter McKinnon kind of personality. But then I stepped into doing this, and it was like, okay, this I can do. Like, this is my voice, being like just inquisitive about other people, and
Hmm.
fans of other people's work, and then just listen to their stories. Like, that's become sort of my voice. And same thing with Cody. He's if you get a chance, check out some of his stuff. He's found his
Yeah.
voice. He's found who he is in that kind of arena, in the real estate arena, which is totally different than what I operate in, at least. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
did
love
want to
that.
ask you. I wanted to ask you, what camera did you start off with? Because you said earlier that you were using your phone and then you went
Yep.
and bought a camera. And I'm a big gearhead, so I always love to know, what did you start with?
I started with a Canon T3i, and I was blessed to have a relationship with I don't know what's the proper term. It's my cousin's wife. Well, she's
Okay.
she's an artist. I don't know what the proper term is there, but
I
she's an
just still refer
artist.
to him as cousin.
Just cousin. She's just
Yep.
cousin. But she was using a Canon 5D Mark III for all of her wedding photography, and I was blessed to be able to have that relationship with her, and she kind of mentored me in that beginning with like trying to figure out what kind of camera path to go down. Because of course, like if you choose Nikon, Sony, or Canon, then you're probably also going to be buying all those lenses. Then you get into that
Right.
ecosystem, you know. Well, she got me into Canon, and I've been using Canon ever since. And that was really, really helpful. And also, she was just so encouraging because she saw what I was able to do with just my phone, and I look back at those photos, and they are a work of art.
That's such a great way to put it. Yeah,
um,
it's so great going back
yeah.
and looking at some of our very first stuff.
Mhm.
I'm thankful most of mine. If you scroll back far enough on the Mr. Pope on Instagram, you'll see the early stuff when I was at Oak Grove High School, and even some of the early stuff at Calera. I mean, it was rough. It was rough, man. But at the
Yep.
same time, I was so thankful to be surrounded by people that encouraged that and
Mhm.
celebrated that even.
Mhm.
But I mean, in some ways, I looked at it and I was like, man, I'm around a bunch of people with like in the educational space, people have really low standards. But at the same time, it was so encouraging and freeing. I didn't feel like there was this critical eye other than my own.
Mm.
Everyone else just celebrated it. So it's cool that you had people that were celebrating you even at that moment when you weren't at your best by any means. But if
Yeah.
somebody had discouraged you, that would have been awful.
Yeah, that would've been really hard, and luckily she was there to be like, "Hey, you should really give it a shot. Just give it a shot, see what happens."
Yeah.
And she helped coach me a bit and help me understand like some of the lenses to buy in order to get different looks and things. And then I would just go to the park and I would just mess around on the settings and just like do like crazy numbers, like 12,000 ISO with at like an f22, shutter
Wait,
speed at 1/8,000, and like
you
just
don't
see what happened.
you don't shoot with 12,800 on a regular basis? I mean, I do have the FX3. Maybe it's
Well,
the
if we go over some of the projects, I'll tell you all the ones that I did that on because you can
okay.
hardly tell what's going on.
I get that. Yeah, I had one of my daughters went and did some photos recently at school, and
Mhm.
she took one of my cameras, and I had tried to set it up beforehand. I was like, okay, I've got the aperture, shutter speed, like they're set. The ISO was auto, the white balance was auto. I'm like, you can't really mess it up.
Yeah.
Well, I was mistaken. She can mess it up. She jumped
Yep.
the aperture up to f22,
Yep. Yep.
and then because the ISO was auto, it was bright enough in the camera, according to her. But
Hmm.
man, the noise was so bad. When I tried to denoise, it literally like stretched the teacher's face into this weird, scary smile face. It was
Ooh.
terrible. So I need to screenshot that and just send it to that teacher. He's a great guy. he would
Oh
he
man,
would
that's
think that's
funny.
funny.
That is
But
funny.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even on the auto settings, you can mess it up. It's good to learn, and I spent a lot of time learning and trying to figure out what was happening with the camera. I just loved it. I loved being outside and being just on my own and learning this new art and doing something for myself. So that was a good time. That's a good
yeah.
time back then in high school.
Tell me this. What moving on to sort of like your
Oh my
creative journey?
goodness.
There's
Oh wow.
you have a few pictures out there that are just golden gems. So I
Oh
hope you
my
keep them out
goodness.
there always, man.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
I think that if I pay attention to the people who tag you in photos, oftentimes I get some better photos than just what you share. So uh,
Yeah, I'm not great at sharing. I'm so glad you found that one though. That's perfect.
it's a good one.
Yes, it is.
All right, so tell me, like, obviously now you work in film, you work in commercial, like
Mhm.
you do video predominantly, from what I can tell.
Mhm.
What's that journey been from the photography, family portraits to now working in film? How did you make that transition, and what sort of pushed you in that direction?
Yeah. As I built my business back in high school, I was using that money to help pay for things in college, and preparing to go to college. And my freshman and sophomore year in college, I continued the business, trying to do some work for Sanford, as well as like photographing fraternities, sorority parties, and just like trying to do whatever I could to earn some extra cash. Um, and what I learned at the end of sophomore year was a lot more people were getting cameras, a lot more people were making Instagram accounts, and they were basically, it was a price war, and people were just trying to come in and bid under me so that they could get the job. And I learned that like people weren't caring so much anymore about the art of photography and what I was doing. They were caring more about the efficiency, like the speed of getting those photos delivered right after the event and things like that, as opposed to maybe taking some more time to like go through them and curate a look for them and so on. So that for me was a bit, it was eye opening to learn because I knew that I wanted to continue making things and be very intentional. And at that time, I also like started to venture into video because I wanted to make music videos for fun, and I knew that my camera could. And I had the 5D Mark III at that time, and I
Yeah.
was just trying it out for the first time. And so I started making music videos on the side just for fun to like learn about what was happening in video, and I was using like iMovie and all of that. And so as I looked at the market, I looked at what was happening. I was like, I'm just going to go all in on video and just learn this side because I want to be intentional in what I'm doing, and I don't want to just be in a price war and just trying to like fill up my calendar with as many shoots as possible in order to make the same amount as if I did maybe 2 video shoots in a month. And I was able to, bid up, or not really bid up, but just more set my price at actually what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I started that junior and senior year. I carried on with just the video side of the business. And at the end of senior year, I was looking at jobs, and I was maybe going to do like software sales or go into something else. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I think I just want to give this a shot and just see what happens. I got like 4 roommates at the time. I was single, living in Birmingham. I already had created a network. People knew about me doing video. And I was like, if it fails, I mean, I go find a new job. Like
Right.
I don't have anything that's going to be a big problem, um, or any fallout if it fails. So I was like, let's just go give it a shot. And so that's what launched First Avenue Productions after college.
What was your major in college? What did you end up majoring in?
I studied economics and marketing.
Nice, nice. Do you feel like that's really served you well in what you do now?
Yeah, when I was studying economics, that was also what was helping me understand what was happening in the market
Yeah.
with the photo side. And it actually gave me a framework to look at that and to be like, okay, I'm going to shift my business model, go towards video. Although it's going to be a little bit harder, more of a learning curve right now, I think I'm going to have better payoff in the future than if I stay with photo. Not that like photo is a bad thing. It's just I didn't want to be against the crowd. I wanted to be recognized for the intentional work that I was doing. And video seemed to be like there were less people doing it and more people were allowing the space to be intentional in a video.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted to also, what I learned, just like what you were saying earlier, how much you love to hear the stories of other people and be able to do this podcast and be able to hear those stories. When I was on these portrait sessions, I would hear these great stories and get to know these great people, but of course, I could never record any of that. Now I
Yeah.
have the chance to interview people and have the chance to share a story that is really, really valuable, a story that needs to be heard, and to give someone else a voice. I mean, that's a powerful thing. And I'm just really grateful to be able to do that for others, you know?
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorite things about working in the video space. Like my main type of video that I love doing the most are talking head interview type videos
Hmm.
with B-roll, of course. I mean, I want it to look good, and I want to give myself some more flexibility in post with being
Hmm.
able to cover up cuts and stuff.
Hmm.
But like a simple 2 angle sit down interview, and the main reason is because I do love what you're talking about. I love that idea of just delving into somebody's story for just a moment. It's all about them. It's all about what they're saying, and like once they say something that is it strikes any kind of interest or like feels like okay there's a little bit more there, then I
Hmm.
go in and I'm like, okay, tell me more about that, like let's follow up with that. Like those are some of my favorite moments, not to
Yeah.
mention I work in the world of education, so I get to tell stories of custodians and bus drivers and people that you normally would never hear
Yeah.
about or hear from. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a cool thing we get to do in the video space.
I feel the same as you because I get to go do these jobs for like Alpha Metallurgical Coal Resources and Nelson Brothers Mining. Um, these blue collared workers who are out in the field who they've never had a camera on them.
Right.
I mean, like maybe they're only getting their portrait made by an iPhone from other family members.
Yeah.
Like, and I get to go out there and ask them very intentional questions, of course, about their job because we have certain objectives that we have to hit because it is going to be a marketing video in the end. But also, I like to sit there and I'll spend about sometimes an hour to an hour and a half talking to these guys to get a 2 minute cut.
Yeah.
And it's because, yeah, I could just ask you the quick questions and be done with the interview in 20 minutes. But I want to get to know who this is. And as soon as I hit about that 45-minute mark in that interview with these guys, they really start to show their heart behind what they're doing. And that's when you really get the best content in an interview, is when you finally get past that beginning awkward phase of like all the cameras are around, the lights are around, and I could sit down and tell the story of someone who like typically has never been in this position.
Yeah.
And that 45 minutes to the hour and a half mark right in there, that's really that's the gold.
Where do you have a trick that maybe you use to put them a little more at ease? Because a lot of these people, like you said, they're not used to being in front of the camera, and a lot of them feel this pressure to,
Hmm.
say stuff that is going to be really glowing about their company. I mean,
Hmm.
oftentimes there may be, I mean, they've been asked by their boss to be on this potentially.
Hmm.
So they want to perform well. And there's probably this little bit of fear and anxiety. How, do you have any tricks that helps putting those people at ease? And then also to get a little bit more candid and authentic answer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So over the years of interviewing, I've learned that I don't tell them when we're rolling. I just
Yeah.
we get them to walk. I try not to use a lav mic. I don't want to put anything on them. I
Right.
want to have everything set up. I introduce myself outside the set. I go try to meet them. I'm like, come on in. And I bring them in. And I'm like, this is where you're going to sit. And then hopefully I'll have someone with me who can look at the cameras and do some adjustments. And so as I'm
Right.
sitting there with them, I just start asking about their day. I ask about who they are. Like I just ask questions as if I was sitting down for coffee with them,
Yeah.
not like I'm doing an interview. I know what the objectives are and what I've been told from, you know, whoever's leading the project on the company side for the marketing efforts. But I don't. I've studied that. I know what I have to deliver, but I go in there recognizing that I'm sitting across from a person and not just a deliverable.
Yeah.
And I need to
That's
get to know the
great.
person, right? And
Yeah.
so I sit down, and for the first like usually 20 minutes, it is me just learning about who they are. What is their life? Not their job, not any of that. Just like tell me about your family. Tell me about where you came from. What do you like to do outside of this?
Yeah.
Let's like talk. And then I also share who I am. I don't just ask them questions. Like we have a dialogue. And
Yeah.
then that leads into like eventually it gets to work. Work is such a majority of our lives. Eventually it's going to get there anyways.
Yeah.
So
You
if you
sort of
can
let
carve
them
out
get
that
it
time.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it puts them at ease because now they're like, oh, I'm not coming in here just to try my best to properly answer questions, and then they're going to get mad at me if I didn't say it the right way. Oh,
Right.
this guy wants to know me. And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, did I say that correctly or not?" And I'm like, "Don't even worry about it. Let's just keep talking."
Yeah.
Because I know that with editing tricks, like you were mentioning earlier about the B-roll and so on, I'm like, that's stuff that I don't need to explain to them because
Right.
that's too like it's not that it's too complicated. It's just that they don't need to think about that side. That's my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Their job is to be themselves on camera, and that's when we can get the best stories because we're telling an authentic story of who they are.
That's cool. I think you've got a lot better plan than I do. This is my trick. At the very end of the conversation, I take my earbuds out. Like I always use earbuds to monitor the audio while I'm.
Mhm.
But I usually only have one in and one hanging on my collar,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then I take those out and I hang them on the camera. They
Mhm.
assume the camera's off at that point
Mhm.
just because I've made that movement because something has changed out of the ordinary from our conversation. And then I usually ask them something like, "All right, now tell me the truth." And oftentimes these are interviews where they're talking about somebody that they
Yeah.
love and admire and appreciate. And so then I get the, oh no, they are amazing. Like I get like a real genuine, like, suddenly their energy level changes, their posture changes, their facial expressions change. And then I get the golden moment of like a one or two liner that I've been wanting the whole time. And again, though, it's that process. You got to take them on that journey. You got to get them into a place of comfort, a place of like trust, and then oftentimes they'll really give you the real authentic reaction to it. That's
Absolutely.
great though. I
I
love your plan. It's a lot more thought out. I feel like mine's just removing earbuds.
No, I love that. I think that's also a great method. It really is. And I haven't thought about doing that is like perhaps if it's has to be a short interview,
Yeah,
and I don't have that lead up time to get to where I want to go. I love that. I'm gonna steal that from you. I'm taking
do
it.
it, do it, do it. And then afterwards, you need to call me and say that didn't work at all. So
Oh, another note that I like to try to think of when doing interviews is like you know how you can have the red tally lights
yeah,
that are on cameras? Get rid of all that.
yeah.
Never have those on. I never have those on. Not even when recording B-roll. I never want someone to think that I'm actually recording.
How many times have you been sitting there in the midst of an interview and you're like, "Did I hit record?" That's the worst feeling in the world. And
Ugh.
then I'm one of those, man, I love to maintain eye contact with the people because to me, if
Mhm.
I'm not interested in what they're saying, if I appear to be distracted by other things, that's distracting them. And so I
Yes.
try to lock into these people's eyes while I'm talking to them.
Yep. Yep.
And so, but then in my mind, I just thought, crap, I may have not hit record.
Hmm.
And so now I'm trying to time it to where when they look down or look away or in thought somewhere,
Hmm.
I can like peek real quick at the camera to see is that
Yep.
red tally light on or is the little
Yep.
record in the screen going? So
Yep.
that's a
I
terrible
think
moment.
I have, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of anxiety when I sit down and I don't have a partner with me to look at
Right.
those cameras, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to keep it seamless. You don't want to break that flow at all. But that's why I also always suggest to people just find somebody else that can be there with you,
Right.
whether it's just a production assistant or a first AC camera operator type, just anybody. I mean, it could even be a grip. Just someone who's there who can just monitor your cameras and give them full liberty that if something happens, you tell them before the shoot, you're like, if anything happens, just speak up and we will
Right.
figure it out.
Yeah.
It's all going to be good. But yeah, if you can, always just hire someone at least to be there. It's just going to make the whole thing go smoother because then you're not feeling anxious inside about
Yeah.
what's happening over here. You know that you can trust someone else to deal with it, and then you can lock in like you're talking about.
Yeah, worst thing ever is to get done with an interview. And I've done this even with like children, like students of teachers that are like first grade, second grade, and I just finished this great interview. They said great things, and then I look at the camera to stop it, and I didn't hit record. That's happened a
Oh,
few times. You learn the hard way,
mm-hmm,
Those are sickening moments. So, all right,
mm-hmm.
I want to ask you something because you haven't brought this up yet, and I was told that I should ask you about this. Okay,
Oh no.
so I need to know about the Hamptons and about your band days. I wish I had video footage. I'm sure it's out there. I didn't get it,
Oh
but
man.
I talked with Chris Todd recently. I interviewed
Hmm.
him,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, all right, you know Preston pretty well, like. What should I ask him? He was pretty nice to you. The fact that he just brought that up, I figured there's probably some other dirt he could have dug up on you that would have been really good questions to pose to you. But
Yeah,
tell me
that was a kind response from Chris.
tell me about your music background because you didn't really talk about that
Mhm.
in your origin story. So
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also I'm curious to know how much of that do you feel like aided you at all in working in video?
Mm. So I grew up learning bass guitar from fourth grade, I want to say. Yeah, it was fourth grade that I started learning bass guitar.
That's early.
Um, Absolutely loved it. Had so much fun. Um, and like I loved exploring all genres on the bass. The first song I learned, my first lesson was Message in a Bottle by The Police.
Yeah, yeah.
The second song that I learned was Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. and
Little bit of
then
difference there.
and then I went to Billie Jean by Michael Jackson.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all
So
right.
all over the place with the genres, but absolutely just loved feeling music. And my guitar teacher, Derek Forwarda, I'll never forget him because he has been such an important person in my life, such a huge impact in my development and in my artistry, because he really taught me to feel out what I wanted, and to like feel out music, to really listen well. And I didn't know that anything on the bass guitar, anything on the neck of the bass, had a name to it. I didn't know those were notes for the first 2 years of playing. I didn't know that that was something you could write down. I was literally just
Okay.
like, I just would listen, and we would just listen and then play, listen, then play, listen, then play. And everything was based off my ear and how I felt. And then after that, he was like, okay, now we're going to learn all the notes and actually like the scales and go through all that process. What he wanted to teach me was how to like intentionally listen to things. And I think that had a really strong impact on me because now I can hear music with a different depth. Um, and with that, going to filmmaking now and transferring that knowledge of what I learned on the bass and also my love for music, that's transformed my videos and sound design and understanding what music and like understanding really how it makes me feel and how it matches up with a piece, right? So how to match up these different story arcs for an interview with certain music in order to really articulate a feeling or emotion that you want um, out of that interview. So I really understand music well and being able to place that in to these videos, as well as then focusing on sound design and learning how all of this works together to create a much more in-depth experience of these videos. Something that's just a lot more embellished, I guess, as
Yeah.
opposed to if you were just doing dialogue, a music track, and then the video, adding different story beats, being able to really shape the music in a way. Um, that is something that I feel like is often ignored at the beginning of filmmaking. But once it's learned, it is so powerful.
Yeah. One of my close friends and former coworker, Cole Peavy, he is a musician, and the stuff that he's able to do with taking the emotional part of the song and tying that in with the emotional part of a story, a dialogue, like it's always been incredible to me. Like he
Hmm.
leaves room for the music to build,
Hmm.
and that was something like oftentimes I would lay out dialogue and I leave no gaps between it. You know, I'm just trying to get all the words in. Well, he's one that showed me like, here's dialogue. The music needs some room to breathe.
Hmm.
Separate that dialogue and then bring the dialogue back in at this moment in the music, you know? And it was like, it made so much sense. But to me, it's like, I never even I just laid out the dialogue and then I laid out the music, and if it matched up well, it was like a lucky thing on my part most of the time. So, but he showed me this intentionality to
Yeah.
how you sort of match those two and merge them. So,
Hmm.
and I think musical background is what taught him that, and it sounds like it's taught you that also. Just
Yeah.
feeling the music with the emotion of the dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. I Yeah, being able to feel out that music has been definitely it feels kind of like a superpower sometimes in the editing
Definitely,
room. Being able to know when it's the right track, being able to
yeah.
know where the right beats are within it, and knowing when it needs to breathe. So yeah, I definitely feel blessed in having that on my side.
Yeah. Well, and the stories that y'all tell there at Cedar Creative, I mean, it is so emotional oftentimes. And if the music didn't coincide with that, I think you would be missing an element. So the fact that you understand that, as well as I know the rest of the team has so much talent in that, and y'all work with people,
Hmm.
y'all bring in people that specialize in things as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of, let's talk about some of your work. Let's talk about the kind of role that you sort of serve on set? Because I know you have been sort of like a jack of all trades out of necessity. I feel like a lot of y'all at Cedar Creative are like that. That y'all, each one of you could go on set all by yourself and perform every role. But at the same time, I know there are times where y'all each serve specific roles on set.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
what is it that you do oftentimes? What's your favorite role? Just what do you feel like you're most beneficial to the crew in general when you do
Hmm.
serve in a certain role?
Yeah, absolutely. When it's all of us together on set, and we're not kind of like having to break apart to do different jobs, I am typically like the grip gaffer. So I'll run the truck, I'll get all the right gear, and I will come up with all the plans for how we're going to go about maybe lighting a second story window when we don't have all the right gear for it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm also someone, so I'm an Eagle Scout, and so like safety is really important too for me, and making sure that everyone's safe, and learning that through my Boy Scouts and all that, my time in Boy Scouts. So I do love working with all the gear, but I also like to really make sure that everything that we're doing is really safe. Um, and so I will plan out how we're going to go about lighting a scenario, run all the lights, run the cable, figuring out all the electric side, and then oftentimes after running all the lights and getting the scene set, I'll then run into the scene and dolly grip for things. So
yeah.
those are typically my roles on set.
With lighting, especially considering I know y'all work a lot in more of like natural environments,
Mhm.
do you find yourself as much as lighting a scene, removing light from a scene, and how skilled or experienced do you feel like you are in that kind of stuff? Because with grip, I feel like and gaff, I feel like those oftentimes you're working together with adding light in one
Mhm.
aspect but removing light in another aspect. What's
Yeah.
sort of your method to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a recent project that we just completed, we were adding a lot more light. We were really trying to light these scenes, and um, we were just trying to emphasize a lot of what was already there, but it just wasn't enough, and just add a little bit more um, of a unique look to the scenes. And so, yes, we work with natural light a lot, but there are definitely scenes that call for our lighting package and what we have. Like we have the 1200X, the 600D, we have three different 300s, Lico attachments, all sorts of different lights that we have as things that we could pull out of the truck and just try to emphasize what we were already seeing there, or just to create an entirely different look. So oftentimes I find us, um, if we're doing an interview setup, then yeah, we're shaping more of the light. We're creating a really strong key look, typically using like a book light through magic cloth, or setting up our infinity bars to go through a magic cloth. Um, and then we're using our 8 by neg to kill the other side. Things like that, and just trying to build those very, very efficiently. Um, our workflow is also a little bit different, I'd say, than most other film sets. The speed and efficiency is really, really important. So we don't try to have a ton of gear. We try to take what we need, and then improvise in other scenarios, because we're not always going to have everything. And so we try to do things in a safe way, try to be really speedy with it, because it's more about being able to have as much time in that moment to film it than trying to do all the right setups to get the perfect light, like little ping. But oftentimes we do get blessed with that like moment where like the sun's just in the perfect spot when we get there, and we just get it rolling and just go off of that, and I'll just run around with a little bounce or a floppy, and we can just remove light that way, or reflect it back.
Yeah, I see you on set. I don't. I don't have any pictures right here, but I see you oftentimes wearing this vest that's like got
Yeah.
all this attached to it.
Yeah.
What all are you carrying on you at all times? What's maybe tell me this? What is the most important piece that you always have on you, or if you don't have on you, you're scrambling?
I love to have my level on me for whenever we're doing anything with a dolly. And then I love to have my zeros always close by, my zero clips, because often I'm adding, because we'll have a mixture of like the 1200 or 300X, and we're changing our color temperatures, but then we have all these 600Ds and 300Ds and other things like
Yeah,
that. So I got to then run around and use my portfolio to either add CTS, CTO, or, even CTB to like just try to match our lights as much as I can. And so being able to always have those zeros on the side of my vest ready to go so I can pin things up very quickly, like I was saying with the efficiency of our sets. It's not that I really need a bunch of gear on me, because like I prefer really not to have it because it's just a weight.
right.
But in those moments when it's like, hey, we got to get this turned around really quick because we are trying to rush to this next shot and we want to spend as much time in that shot as possible with the actors, then it's really helpful to have that all available to me very quickly, and make those quick adjustments on the fly.
Yeah,
So I keep my
for
zeros. I have my level. I'll keep a lot of black wrap in there as well, just to
yeah.
like quickly shape smaller lights. Um, Little strips of duvetine, hex keys, a wrench, um, and that's really, yeah, that's primarily what it is in there.
So for those like me that don't work on movie sets or film sets or commercial sets like you're working on, zeros are the clothespins, right? Just the little
Yeah, the
like
really small
wooden,
guys.
yeah, the little wooden clothespins.
Yep.
And then you mentioned oh, what was the other thing? Just talking about bicolored lights in general.
Hmm.
Aren't they incredible? Like just the
Yeah.
ability
Yeah.
to like and even more the ones now that have like bicolor with like they've got temperature and tint where you can
Hmm.
change those to really match. Like that's been a game changer for me to have. Oftentimes I'm a one man show, so I show up and rather than bring a bunch of lights, I use the ambient light of whatever's there. I white
Hmm.
balance my camera to that, and then I
Hmm.
match my key light to the ambient light, and it just makes it to where I'm not coming in and shutting everything down and trying to light the whole scene.
Yeah.
Bicolor lights or full RGB lights now, the quality we get out of those, and just the usefulness out of them, it just makes things so much easier.
Yeah, I think that today is just such a great time to get into video and filmmaking because the accessibility to these lights and the
Mm-hmm.
cameras, just like the price point of what all these are and what the flexibility of them and what you can do. I mean, it's amazing just the quality of gear that you can get at this price point and to be able to like get started. Like really, you need a good camera, you need some good lenses, a tripod, and then if you have like one solid key light with a good dome, and then you find some cheap Amaran 2 foot light bar, you
Mm-hmm.
can have an awesome setup with just that. That will pay itself off year after year for you. If you never
Yeah,
got anything else, like
I
if you're
agree.
just doing interview setups, that will pay itself off year
Yeah,
after year. And so as people get into filmmaking, I think it's just such a great time for people to express themselves because the cost, or I guess the barrier to entry is getting lower. And it's awesome to see other people coming up and having the chance to tell their story or other
yeah.
stories and shed light on other people's stories.
Well, you just shared my secret because that's all I've done is I've pretty much bought the stuff you just described, and then I pretend that I actually know what I'm doing with it. But
Oh,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
exactly it.
look at your studio setup. I'm over here. I'm
You
like
know.
I'm a gaffer, but I have literally nothing around me, and you have the nice looking setup.
I try. I try. All right. Well, I want to talk about this, man. I mean, y'all, and I know this was last year, so y'all just recently did it again. I mean, y'all are getting awards after awards all the time. I mean, the beautiful work that I see coming out of Cedar Creative is just really. I mean, really, to be honest, I talk with Colin Odell all the time, and Cedar in our minds it's just sort of the standard, you know. I mean, just the beautiful work you are telling, um, the stories, the narrative to it all is just incredible. So, what's it like working with this team? What's it like, getting these kind of recognitions, these Addy awards, and just the client recognition as well?
Mm. Well, first of all, thank you. It's a blessing to be on this team. It is. I also just personally feel like it's a blessing to be able to share the stories that we do. And I'm really grateful to have that opportunity to do that and to shed light on things that are sometimes really difficult topics to talk about and to bring others
Agreed.
into that, right?
Yeah.
So that feels like a blessing and an honor to be able to be trusted with that, and to uh, to then win awards for that. It feels I don't know. I'm really grateful. Just really, really grateful to be able to be a part of that, to have that recognition. And I also feel like at the Addies, when we do have that recognition for those types of videos, like that I'm talking about with some harder topics, or maybe something about foster care or something, I feel like we also get then double recognition on being able to expose a nonprofit that needs help, or a mission that other people may have never heard about, and we get to then shed more light on what that is,
Yeah.
through submitting it to that. So that also feels like a blessing when we do win those awards, and we know that that's going to be in the book, that people can look this up and they could become aware of what's happening somewhere else. Maybe that leads to them feeling led to give, or to have some sort of input into that situation, whether it's volunteering their time or giving. So that just all feels like a blessing. Working on this team is also, um, it is high pace. Like we're like a really, like when we're on set, everything's like really high pace. And I like that environment. I like that we're like driving forward in that way. We care deeply about the end product, um, because we want our clients to feel very proud to also put out this stuff. And I think we all understand that this is an honor to tell these stories. And we want to do our absolute best in everything that we're doing in order to share that in the absolute best way. So, working on this team, we're constantly sending each other different versions of videos, constantly going through the critique process. And something that we really focus on is that when we critique a video, we are not critiquing who the person is, or the editor, or whoever shot it, right? We are giving feedback in order to make something the best, because we don't operate as like, oh, this is the person who leads this, and then everyone else is under him. We operate as a whole. We operate as a unit, and we want always the unit as Cedar Creative to put out the best stuff. And the best way to do that is through feedback and giving feedback within the group. So that's something that has also been great, because I was in a freelance environment before where it's just myself.
Yeah.
I was working terrible hours. Like I didn't have any free time outside of work. I was just in this kind of like survivor mindset of just trying to make it, right. And so once I decided to join Cedar, I I got my life back, which was a blessing. But also, I just started to make much better work because of the input and the influence all around.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge blessing to have as well.
Well, I know we didn't really talk about your journey, business journey wise, but from
Hmm.
what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you started off as First Avenue
Hmm.
Productions, and then you created tons of work in that, and that was, I'm assuming, sort of your freelance time, which I think you did at some point work with other people in that, but for the most part, it was just you. And then at some point you joined in with Cedar. They sort of like, I don't know how that exactly happened, but you and I talked about it at one point, and I don't, I
Yeah.
don't recall right now. But you joined in on their team and basically got like a level of ownership of the Cedar Creative in general. But I think you operated a little bit separately as Cedar Avenue for a while, and now that's been sort of absorbed into the Cedar Creative in general, and now y'all operate as one entity in various projects and types of projects. But for the most part, y'all do narrative work, and y'all do corporate, but mostly the big mission is sort of these nonprofits, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So when I first got started with First Ave, that was me when I had graduated. That was all freelance, just trying to understand what entrepreneurship's all about.
Yeah.
It was a tough journey, honestly. It was 3 years that were I had a ton of fun, but it's also just a really difficult time for me in my life during all of that. Um, I'm a very relational person, and I felt often that I was locked up in my home, just trying to edit and just trying to get to the next thing. Um, and so that was really, really difficult to kind of feel like I've had to shun friendships during that time. Um, so during that time, though, I did meet Morgan, and Morgan's a part of our team.
Yeah.
And Morgan and I had talked about like him joining First Avenue and things like that. And then this opportunity came up to start Cedar Avenue. Kevin had approached me. He's like, "Hey, man, I want you to lead this new company called Cedar Avenue. You'll partner with us in that." And so we launched Cedar Avenue. And my goal, as soon as it launched, was like, I want Morgan on this team.
Yeah.
And that was my goal, was to get as many clients as possible, to create this great commercial work, to build the business so that as quickly as possible I could get Morgan on the team. And I think it was about I want to say within 5 months we had signed a contract with Morgan and got him on. So
Nice.
that was just, Morgan's one of those guys who I have always been able to trust with everything. I trust his feedback. I trust his friendship. I trust him with a camera. I can send him onto a different location with a goal, and I trust that he's going to come back with the right footage. Everything about what Morgan does, I can trust, and it's always been a partnership that I've cherished. And I've really enjoyed working alongside him. And so having him to come and join the company was something that was like really comforting. And I always love working with him. So we were leading Cedar Avenue. We were getting that up and running. And then after about a year, we were having a lot of PR problems with just like Cedar Avenue versus Cedar Creative. What's
Right.
the
Right.
difference? What's happening? You're putting out stuff that are like, these bigger commercials, but also Cedar is, like Cedar Creative is. Um, we just decided that like this is just too much to try to like manage. And we were like, we have all the same partners in both and all this sort of stuff. So we dissolved Cedar Avenue, transferred ownership to Cedar Creative. And so everything's underneath Cedar Creative, which I think is a much better direction for
Yeah.
all of us to be there underneath one goal. And that goal becoming that like we want to be a film studio in Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
And with all of us down that pipeline and going down that pipeline, I think it just streamlines our workflow. It streamlines the projects. Like everyone is on board with everything. So I'm really happy with that transition and what's happened there. It just took a long time because we still had clients coming through Cedar Avenue,
Right.
and we still had people like approaching that side of the business. And so we had a pretty long, I wouldn't call it, I guess, maybe a runway, or just a pretty long road to finally dissolving all of that.
Yeah.
And I
I
think that we're at the end of that road now.
yeah, tomorrow you're going to get a call. I'm looking for Cedar Avenue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
or
oh,
First
come on.
Ave. Yeah, I've actually dealt with, or I guess my company, I just started really niches down into school systems and
Mhm,
school, like educational tech companies,
mhm.
and I recently had like this. Um, Automation robotics company that's more involved in like assembly and like industrial type stuff reach out to me and want and talk with me about doing video, and I'm like, how do you handle that? Like, how do you I feel like I want to niche down, but at the same time I don't want to exclude opportunities from myself. But then, and also, I've always heard you are what you say yes to, and it's like how do you niche down, which I think from what I understand Cedar Creative, they niche down into this narrative
Mhm.
nonprofit type of work, but then also you don't want to miss out on opportunities or exclude certain companies that just love the type of work you do, and
Mhm.
want their stories shared in a similar manner.
Yeah.
That's a tough sort of balance to strike without just being everything to everyone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when I was running First Avenue, I was trying to be everything for everyone. I was trying to be a crew member on set and traveling to Atlanta to go and do all that. I was trying to be a producer on different things. I was trying to run my own projects with like interviews for Sanford, but also starting to do this mining stuff with Nelson Brothers, and working on nonprofit stuff. Like I was trying to do everything for everyone, which I mean, there's two sides to this. I think that's a good thing when you're starting, right? It's like
Right.
you're having your chance to kind of do a shotgun, and see what you really enjoy. And then that
Yeah.
helps you start to create your own voice, right? As you then start to niche down and figure out which direction you really want to go. But with that like kind of shotgun start, it also just feels like everything's coming at you and it's really intense. And that's what led to me not really having any work-life balance at all at the beginning. But it also led to me getting to where I am. It's a blessing and a curse. I guess I feel like I'm in a counseling
Uh,
session. I'm like trying to figure out what's going on here.
yeah. Yeah. We're both on the couch right now. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere at all with this if we both need therapy, and yet we're trying to go to each other for it. So that's
Oh
funny.
man. But
Well,
yeah,
props
I'd
to
say
y'all on this stuff that y'all have
mhm.
accomplished and the recognition that y'all
Thank
have
you.
received. I mean, I really do think that obviously the team at Cedar Creative, even before you got there, they were doing some amazing projects, incredible
Mhm.
work. Those guys recognized in you. Just this energy and this creativity that they wanted to be a part of. So props to you on that, and them for recognizing that in you. And then it seems like all y'all have done is just add to your team in a way that is beneficial, and
Mhm.
I think just sort of keeps expanding y'all's capabilities.
Yeah.
Not to mention the work hasn't changed at all in the sense that it's still amazing. I'm sure there's subtle changes, obviously, that each of you have brought, but it's done nothing but just still raise that bar so much
Mhm.
for those of us that are genuine fans of Cedar Creative. So props.
Thanks for saying all that. I really appreciate your kind words, and I also want to recognize that like adding in Chris has been just tremendous. His photography skills absolutely amazing. Um, who he is as a person and his personality is contagious.
Yeah,
He's like one of those
he's
people that
great to
like you
be
want to be
around,
around
man.
and just hang
Yeah,
out with, you know? And he knows so many people. It is mind blowing. So like I knew about Chris because I kind of like watched him from afar going through Sanford. We were 4 years apart, right? So I'd graduated when he was coming in. And I watched him from afar to see like what he was doing with the photo world, and I was recognizing that he had this great talent there. And so I started to grab coffee with him and lunch, and we were just hanging out, and that led to his internship with us, which then led to his position. And just watching that whole process of him coming up from what I saw in college to now, the growth is tremendous. His ability to communicate and articulate really technical things is very, very impressive. And then paired up with all of that is his personality, his social skills, just like how he's able to just hang out with everybody. um, I mean, like, what an incredible blessing to the team to have someone like that on this team, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
then also recently we added Meredith, and Meredith is part time with us as a new assistant producer.
yeah.
But she's also bringing this like, um, I'd say like this gentle ambition. She's so kind, but like wants to get it all done. So like she has this like really gentle push with our projects and helping us get things down the line. So yeah, I just feel like it's just a blessing to be in the office, a blessing to be around these people. And I'm just really, really proud to do what we do and to share the stories that we share.
That's cool, man. Well, like I said, I'm a fan, and I'll keep following along. All right, we got to talk about this, man. Let me pull this thing up. Oh, that's not it. All right,
Oh
there we go.
man,
This was
I
a
didn't mean to
fun.
flex, right?
Yes. Let me mute it. Otherwise, it's gonna be in my ears. All right. So this is just such a fun video, man. I mean, was this the type of music videos that you were talking about earlier that you did originally? Is this where you're? Is this the origin?
This is not the origin. This
Your
is
skills were pretty high at this point. I mean, this is
this.
pretty impressively shot, man. And not to
Thanks.
mention the characters on camera are, I mean,
They're
obviously top
characters.
notch. They're top
They're
notch, man.
characters. Absolutely. This was a creation that came out of COVID.
Of
And
course
our
it did.
friends, well, Jackson actually, Jackson's here in the, well, that's Josh there in the car, but Jackson here in the jean jacket. He's the head guy of the Hamptons. So he was
Oh, okay.
always pursuing
Yeah.
music, right? He wrote all the songs and then he asked me to come in and play bass for all of that. So on all the Hamptons tracks, I was playing bass on that. But Josh here, Josh is, how do I even describe Josh Berry? Josh Berry is someone who will make you laugh more than you've ever laughed in your entire life, like a true comedian at heart. And then he
Yeah.
can bring it down to ground level within an instant and talk about something that's like really near and dear to maybe your soul and just like getting deep. And like he is down to approach every single type of conversation, right? So post COVID, I'm living with Josh, Jackson, my friend Wes. I had Jacob in there, Seth. Like we had a lot of guys in one house, and that's how I was able to start this business. Was
Yeah.
really cheap rent and
Yeah.
utilities and all that, right?
Right.
And that's
Right.
what helped
Right.
save money, right? But this whole video, they had written this song. They recorded it in the basement. They thought it was hilarious. I lived with them. I was like, let's just shoot it. I mean, we have all the time in the world right now. And that's what this video was born out of. So it's a fun
COVID.
memory to look back
Well,
on.
it's so funny thinking of the Cedar Creative team, right? And think of COVID, and I think of the Relic. You know,
Yeah.
the video, the Relic, and I
Mhm.
think of just the beauty behind that. They're sort of like, hey, we don't have anything to do. Let's do something like this. That's what they were doing,
Mhm.
and this is what you were doing.
All right, hold on. They had the help of Champo. They had
Right.
oh, I can't remember the group out of
Uh,
Ohio. I feel terrible. They had some additional help.
right.
It was just me,
Right.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. I'm a fan of both projects. I think it's incredible. No, I think
Oh
I
man,
love it, but I
that's
do think
funny.
it's I wanted to point that out to you, that this is what you were doing while they were doing. No, I love it, man. I think it's hilarious. I think so much of the work that you did, even in that, like the way the video was shot, the camera movements, man, there's so many people, and myself included, that would not have been able to deliver as clean of a video as you delivered in that. Even just goofing around with your friends, it was so well shot. The dialogue, when they stop and start talking to each other, it's so great. The timing, the cutting, the clarity of the audio, all of that was just really great.
Thanks. Thanks.
Even there's one video where it's just a friend of yours having like a birthday get together on like a parking deck rooftop, and even
Mhm.
that one, like, it's just so well done, man. I mean, I really
Thank you.
do. I really do think your skills as a videographer and an editor just resonate with so much of your work.
Mm.
So
I really
I
appreciate you saying all that.
yeah.
That's super kind. And it's actually kind of reminding me right now that like I need to get my camera out more to go and film these different things because that's when like when you get to film like the birthday party on the parking deck or doing a music video with friends like that. Um, when I get to go out and do that, like that's when these new editing tips and tricks kind of come into play, right? That's when I get to be like, oh, let's just try this,
Right.
because there's no stakes of like having to deliver something for a client who's paying. Um, and that's when I feel like I'm really able to express more of my voice and discover more and lean into more of just whatever I want to try. Um, so I appreciate you bringing all that up because it's kind of reminding me that I need to get back to some of those roots.
We
I need
do
to get
need
back to
more of
just filming
these.
again.
We do need more of these music videos. I mean, I definitely think so. So
We can make that happen. We can make that happen.
love it, love it. All right, so let me ask about advice. What kind of advice would you give to a beginner? What's some of the best advice maybe that you yourself have received from somebody? Anything along those lines?
Man, those are some old photos. Sorry, I get
Oh,
distracted. I
and
never know what
and
to expect.
well, and props on the wrestling, man. I was a wrestler in high school, and then
Yeah.
I coached wrestling when I first began teaching. So I always love to see another fellow wrestler that in high school. How obviously you did well enough to win this medal. I don't know if this was like, was this one that they gave out to everyone, or did you actually accomplish something with your
I
wrestling?
I accomplished something with that. It wasn't great. It was just a freshman state tournament,
Yeah.
and I only got fourth, so it wasn't the best.
So they
But
were
I was
out of
still,
four people, you got fourth. No,
yeah.
no.
I still loved wrestling, but I ended up getting a stress fracture in my spine from it, so I had to
Oh
quit
gosh.
after freshman year, which was a
Yeah.
huge bummer because that felt like my sport.
Yeah.
Um,
I quit because I started dating my now wife. My junior year, I was
it's a
like,
good
nope, I
reason.
got more important things to do. So,
It's a
but
pretty good reason.
I don't know, maybe. So it paid off for me definitely. So, all right,
Yeah.
advice.
Advice, are you saying for anyone who's starting?
Yeah, anyone that's starting, or like I said, like even if you yourself have received some advice at some point that you're like, man, that made all the difference, and you can share both of those if you want to.
I would say that it doesn't matter as much about your camera and the gear that you have. What really matters is the story in front of the camera and how you decide to approach that. And learning as much as you can about how to tell a story. That's really where the magic happens. Um, you can film things on your iPhone if you want, as long as you're understanding how to get the right angles and how to approach storytelling, and understanding that, like, you have to get some good actors, or if it's an interview, just understanding how to approach that person. I think that's way more important than getting all caught up in the gear, because I feel like often we can get caught up in the gear because it's just such a huge industry. So easy to.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
would you say there is an aspect, especially in storytelling, when the maybe the narrative is so important? Is there maybe some hardware or even technical aspects that you do think maybe is really important, maybe even over, like instead of the camera?
yeah, I would definitely say that at a certain point, yeah, you definitely want to learn how to use these different tools in order to emphasize your story. But I think, like, as people are starting out, they get maybe overwhelmed with the gear side. And I want to always remind people that, like, focus on what story you're telling and don't get
Hmm.
so overwhelmed with the gear. The gear will come because you will be like, I need a new tool to tell this story. I can't tell the story unless I have some sort of cool spotlight effect that's, coming straight down in a dark room. Well, how do I create that? Um, that's when you start to learn some of that gear side of it, right? But
Yeah.
just I feel like people just get often like caught up in like, well, I want to get this type of camera and these lenses and that sort of thing. Does it really add anything to the story? Not always, but there are definitely moments like you're saying when like it is important to have certain light fixtures or different types of lenses to tell a different story. For example, the Nelson Brothers videos and the Alpha videos that I've done for these mining companies, like we are trying to show these like vast landscapes, right? So I'm going to be shooting that to be 2 by 39 CineScope. Um, and in the future ones, what we would love to do is shoot that actually anamorphic, just to make it feel almost otherworldly, like make it feel like there's something else special about these places, because it is like, I mean, it's a quarry or it's a mine. Like it could feel so dull, but I want to make it feel elevated. So a lens choice is important for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, or the way that you decide to edit it and the grittiness of it, and choosing the right lenses to achieve that sort of look that helps better tell the story for the client, and helps people resonate with that story.
Yeah.
So yes, gear does come into play, but I think for a beginner, don't get so wrapped up in it. Get more wrapped up in how to tell a story. Get more wrapped up in learning the different techniques of all of that. The gear will come, and then it will become overwhelming, and then you're gonna have no money, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, that took a real deep dive pretty quick. It was like it's going to be great. No, it's not. It's going to be horrible. You're gonna hate it.
This is the filmmaking life right here. Ups and downs. You're just riding
Yep.
a roller
Yep.
coaster.
You
Strap
do
in.
a job to buy gear and then you're broke again, and then you do a job to
Huge
buy
job.
gear and then you're broke again.
Yep. Yep. I mean, that actually brings up another thought I have about what I learned when I was freelancing, when I was first starting out, is learn a lot about accounting and budgeting and finance. Like, yes, focus on story because that is your career, that is your craft, that's what you need to go do to make money. But if you are running your own business and you are a freelancer, learn how to run the business, learn finance,
Yeah.
understand that you may have a booked out 2 months and you're like, this is great, I'm making so much money. The next eight could be gone.
Yeah.
You could get nothing. And
Yeah.
like you have to prepare for any storm that could come, and you have to be really wise with your money in this career field. And I think that what really taught me that was 8 months out of college, First Avenue's getting up and rolling. I'm having a good time. I'm buying gear. I'm doing all the things to get the business started. COVID happens. I lose everything. I go negative in my bank accounts. I'm eating beans and rice. I'm asking my roommates for help. That's a humbling place to get to.
Definitely. Definitely.
And so that quickly taught me it can all get stripped away just as easily as it's coming. And you need to plan for those moments. And I think that we're also often like, oh, we're starving filmmakers and all this stuff. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I think business side of things. I mean, because we do. I mean, I was a student of YouTube. I went there all the time to learn the next piece of gear, how to use it. Framing and composition. Like I was constantly learning how to edit with DaVinci and Premiere. Like constantly soaking up that kind of stuff. But then it gets to time to actually do business and write a proposal or have those kind of like sales meetings where you're actually trying to explain to them why you cost what you cost.
Hmm.
Like those are really difficult moments that we
Hmm.
don't really watch YouTube videos to prepare for. And
Hmm.
I think learning the business side of it, having a mentor or just somebody, a friend that is a little bit further along than you are to
Hmm.
just shed some light on that kind of stuff and give you tips and push you in good direction, that's essential and so needed in this kind of work because that side of it, the lighting, the framing, the camera work, the interviewing, that's the stuff
Hmm.
we love. The
Hmm.
business side of it, that's the work.
Hmm. And like you said, finding that business mentor.
Yeah.
I had mentors along the way. Andrew Clark's one, Stephen Preston is one, even Jay Galloway like really poured
Yeah.
into me and helped me out a lot. Like there, I've just had people along the way who have like reached down to like lend a helping hand and giving advice, and they weren't like trying to be gatekeepers, and that really propelled me forward and helped me out
Yeah.
a lot. And I would definitely encourage anyone who is at the beginning or even just like anywhere in your career, like just go find somebody, talk to them, get some advice, build a relationship. Like that is not going to hurt anybody, and
Yeah.
all you got to do is just pay for their meal or grab a coffee, and just ask intentional questions and build a relationship and see them as a friend. Um, and hopefully, for more experienced filmmakers, we also are always on the lookout for younger people in order to help them out as well,
Yeah.
and to lend a helping hand as well.
Well, I can attest to the idea that the Birmingham creative community are filled with people that are extremely talented and experienced, and at the same time, just so willing to respond to a DM or grab a cup of coffee or even jump on some stupid podcast that some old bald man is trying to create. So,
I love the podcast. I love
well,
it,
thank
Ryan.
you. Thank
I
you.
think
I
that what you're
appreciate
doing
that.
is really something special, and I'm just really grateful that you're doing it. I'm grateful for the meetups. I'm grateful for the community that you are creating here, and I think it's just really a blessing to have your influence in Birmingham.
Thank you. Thank you. That's kind. All right. I need you to explain this picture in the middle here.
I think we're just gonna let that sit and let that be what it is.
I like it. I like it, man. Okay,
I was
well,
a I was a goofy kid.
I like it. I like it. I think it's, we all need to be able to laugh with others at us, and I love it. I think it's great.
That's
All
so
right,
fun,
so
man.
what is next for you? What's next for the evolution of Cedar Creative? What's next for
Yeah.
Preston Little? Like, what do you see in the near future or even the distant future?
Mm. In the near future for me, this year, just really trying to work on areas that I feel weak. For example, Adobe After Effects. I'm not really that experienced in that program. I'd like to work on that. And this year, I'm just really trying to focus on the areas that I feel weak in or just that I don't have really full clarity on. Really focusing in and honing in on those areas to really continue to broaden my tool belt, broaden my horizon of just like what I understand and what we can do. Because every time I unlock a new tool, it unlocks just more creativity for what a video could be.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do that more, and also just learning, always trying to grow, and diving into more videos and just more classes about what's going on. So the near future, I'd say just like a year of growth. The long run, I see feature films, exciting films, just uh, hopefully going to be producing something here in the next 5 years that will be a Cedar Creative feature, which would be awesome. And that is the
I
goal, and that's what we're running after.
I would love to see that. I think, I mean, obviously, just what y'all do already with shorter form type content, the idea of a feature just sounds incredible, and would love to see what that story would look like.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the future. I'm really excited to see what we create, and then also, how we can bring in others into that process. Um, yeah, just really excited.
That's cool. Well, tell me this. This is the question I always sort of like wrap up with, right? Who inspires you? I think you've already touched on some people, definitely that you work with or have, even some of the mentors you mentioned. But who do you look to for that inspiration to like push you to be like the best version of you, either on set or in the edit, or just even in your normal life outside of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Roger Deakins has always been someone that I've really admired his work in the way that he can shape light, and the way that he can make something feel so natural. And I've always wanted to learn how to do more of that. Um, so I really admire him, and I admire just the way that he goes about his work and his craft. If I'm thinking about people in Birmingham, I'm really, quite honestly, I love Alex is he's my roommate. I love Alex's work, man. I love
I
Alex's
agree.
work. Alex is always someone who like he wants to push the boundaries. He wants to try something new. He's always out there working hard, and I really admire that. I really admire that about him. I admire his work ethic, and I think that Alex is someone who's really really unique, a unique artist, and he's a great tool belt with animation and graphics as well as his ability to color grade and shoot things. I think Alex is putting out some really fun stuff. I love seeing the next stills that he'll drop, and it encourages me to really push the boundaries too on my own stuff and to like really think outside the box. He's just incredibly creative, and he's been living with me for the past 3 months now. And being able to hang out at night and talk through things and hear his perspective on stuff has been awesome. I love hearing what he has to say. So I don't know if I guess whenever people talk about who inspires them, it's always like maybe someone else who's like had this big name. But quite honestly, I love Alex's stuff right now, and he's
Yeah.
inspiring me. So
Well, just for the sake of the audience, we are talking about Alex Kiker, unless there's another
yes,
Alex that you're
no,
living
no,
with. But
Alex Kiker, yeah,
yeah, so he is genuinely the most like humble and super talented guy that I know in the creative community. And that says a lot because there are a ton, yourself included, of really humble, talented, incredible creatives in the Birmingham area. But Alex, man, I've talked to him so many times about just my respect for what he does, and then all he does is talk about how much he still needs to learn. And then you see him at like 2 in the morning setting up some random light set up to sit down and drink a beer in front of it, and that's him just sort of like learning. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that I told him one time he shot some video and I was like, dude, that could be in a commercial, that could be in a film, like immediately. Like
Yeah.
that right there looks incredible. And
Yep.
it's him just messing around in his kitchen. And the
Yeah.
fact that y'all are living together now, I'm like, I don't know how anyone in the house sleeps with him moving around at night, setting up C stands and
Yeah.
tripods and floppies, and I mean, I imagine every room at some point becomes a set for Alex Kiker.
It certainly does, and it's actually a lot of fun to watch, and I always encourage it. I think it's awesome. I'm all about
Yeah,
it. One last name that like popped up into my head is since I have my background is in portrait photography. I've always really admired like Miller Mobley's stuff, and what he's created and his artistry as well.
can you
And I
say that
think
name again?
Miller Mobley,
Miller Mobley. Okay. Yeah.
he is someone who just the artwork that he's created for portraits. I mean, it is amazing. It's astounding. Like to me, I am drawn to every single image, and I think it's just this pairing up of both his lighting style, the way that he lights all of these, and also the emotion that he gets out of these portraits. Um, it just really speaks to me a lot, and just
Yeah.
because of my background with portrait photography, I really admire his stuff.
Well, he's obviously working with quite a few big name people, and definitely I see a little bit of what you're talking about, just in the sort of even just unusual. I say unusual, just not the norm kind of
Mhm.
lighting that I'm
Yeah,
seeing on some of this stuff. Yeah, I
the
love this
lighting and
one.
also the poses.
Yeah,
Um, to me, they're just things that like I wouldn't normally think of as like how to pose someone who is at that level of fame, right?
right.
And I feel like he kind of stretches the boundary, I guess. And what he's achieving on camera is just really the emotion and what you're reading off these people's faces, as well as just their body language. It really tells a story very well. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for pointing him out to me. I'll definitely be following along with his stuff.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, Preston, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I thought this was a very fitting
Oh
image
my
to sort of
goodness.
wrap. I mean, obviously, I don't know that your beard and mustache has really improved. I think
I
you
should
sort of,
have saved all of this and just gotten that going for today.
yeah,
That would have been really
yeah. I think this obviously needs to be what you aspire to again achieve. You achieved it at so young. I feel like your
Mhm.
beard peaked. Um,
I totally agree. I've been trying to get back to it. I feel like that's my problem deep down, is that I've never been able to get back to the peak.
That's funny. Seriously, Preston, thank you so much for joining me today, man. It's such a great time just talking with you. The coffee shop, when we met there and we talked, it
Mhm.
was genuinely. I genuinely enjoyed just meeting you and getting to know you. Your spirit, your demeanor, your humility, your talent, man. It all shines, and I
Mhm.
really appreciate it. Just even the very beginning of this conversation, just the tone you set. I really do appreciate it. I value you as a creative, but also you as a friend. And thank you for that. Seriously.
Thank you, Brian. I value your friendship too, and I really admire what you're doing here in town. And I mean, I'm gonna always echo that to everybody and what you're creating here. And I'm grateful that you've asked me to be a part of this. and to be on this podcast to share my story. Um, yeah, it's a blessing what you're doing, and I'm really, really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.